Okay, so our film, we decided on the name Lost and Found. Our target audience will be from ages 12 to 30. This is because there isn't much speech involved in the film, and the only speech is Foley effects in the background. So we thought for younger children, they might find it a bit boring and they won't understand the plot of the film. So we did 12 to 30 because that age range, teenagers and young adults will be able to understand the film more, and also because there wasn't any violence involved or swearing, it would be suited for that age range. And we didn't really think it would suit one particular gender because it had two main characters which were both male and female.
So what Lost and Found is about is actually based on a true story of a homeless man who is given a wedding ring by mistake, and then he tracks the woman who gives him the wedding ring down, and he gives her the ring back. We kind of wanted to follow this idea, but not completely copy it, and we did add our own little twist on it at the end. Another thing we wanted with our film and in our plot is to make the audience kind of think and go away and still remember what Lost and Found is about.
So the visual elements we have is obviously once the high street, we wanted a place that wasn't too ambitious and wasn't too just out there. So this is literally up the road, and it would be really effective for the message that we're trying to convey. So we got the actors here that are going to be utilising the street. They're going to be outside Tesco Express, and we're going to have they're casually, people are going to walk past, and then we're going to have a natural setting for the whole film. And props, we have our blanket, ring, money in a cup, and we want the costume to be as authentic as possible. So Aaron's going to wear really homeless man type of clothing, so our budget isn't going to be too high for that, obviously. So yeah.
We chose this idea because we thought we could really show the different editing skills and camera work off, because it's not based just on speech and the dialogue used. It's the way the camera conveys the story we're trying to show. Also, we thought there was a lot of ways of making it interesting and making the audience question what they're watching and what's in front of them. And yeah.
I was talking about the budget before. Maximum £25, and we needed for the ring, the blanket, the cup, and the worn-out clothes. So we thought that the budget didn't need to be too high, and I think it's a fair amount for what we want to use it for. And so things such as the blanket may be a bit pricey. It's why it's maximum £25, things like that, and maybe the ring, because we wanted the ring to look as authentic as possible, because we want the whole thing to look. So our budget's £25.
So because we have 2 months to complete the short film, we decided a good idea would be to start filming in the October half term, which is from 26th of October. So then when we get back to school, we can go straight into editing, and then we know that if we've done anything wrong, we can go back and film the bits that we've maybe done wrong, or we can add things in if we need to. And then we're given 2 weeks to edit, so we'll be doing that in all our lesson time and then our spare time as well.
So a little bit about the roles. I am the director, Nell is the producer, Omar will be doing cinematography, and Fudzi is the music/editor. Obviously we all will chip in a little bit for the editing and everything else, and we'll do our best to help each other. Just the technical equipment that we need is camera, tripod, voice recorder, and obviously to edit Final Cut Pro. Because we don't have a lot of dialogue or any dialogue apart from the Foley effects, we won't really need to use, we won't have a lot of diegetic sound, it will just be added in.
Character analysis. So our main character, who is the homeless man, will be played by Aaron, and his name is Rico. He's a 27-year-old homeless man who had a gambling addiction, and this made him go into a lot of debt. And since he was with his partner at the time, he had to like be supported by his partner, and then this went on for too long and ended up burdening her, and she left him, and this resulted in him being homeless. And for our main female lead is Jane, who's a 26-year-old female solicitor. She's a nice, elegant, beautiful lady who is very kind-hearted, and she wants to like settle down, have a family, and yeah.
In terms of character as well, I'll be playing the main character, the homeless man, and most likely Nell will be playing the sophisticated lady. The reason I've done this is because I felt it would be a lot more, not easier, but we know how we want our short film to look, and I think we could be the ones to carry it off rather than outsourcing people.
Yeah, like in terms of using the homeless man, we didn't want a typical old man with a massive beard, like someone like Aaron, because he still could be homeless. He doesn't have to be old. He can be young. He can be lively and everything.
For our audio, we wanted like a kind of melodic sort of feel to it. So it's kind of like, it's not really like depressing. It's more just mellow and like how life just goes on. So I wanted a nice melodic piano music to it. I did some research in finding out things such as like melodic music, things that could be emotional or really kind of nice and vibrant or warm sounds. And for the first link, I looked up a time-lapse video, which we kind of wanted to integrate into our film, and I just thought that maybe this is melodic music really needed in a time-lapse video type thing, or do you want like music that progresses and like has some sort of build-up, not like in an epic sort of way, but in a nice gradual sense.
So like they're the examples that we have.
And really and truly, we want the music to send the emotional message across, because we know that through music, that's really the main way you can affect your audience, because it really emphasizes what's going on of what you're seeing. So if you're seeing a homeless man, he's all depressed and everything, you're going to sympathize with him if this music is playing in the background.
Yeah.
One of the main aims for this short film as well is to be able to communicate a story purely using visual and sound elements. We didn't want to have a lot of narration and a lot of dialogue which tells the story. We want you to actually be able to watch and tell the story for yourself and interpret it the way you would interpret it.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have some reflections to make and some questions to ask, and obviously if any of my colleagues have questions for you. On the plus side, I thought it was a well-organised presentation. I thought that you had all clearly contributed and you spoke confidently and about your project, and seem to have invested a lot of thought in it. For me, the most successful elements of the presentation were Fudzi's contributions. I thought the music was really good, and your choices of music, and that really conveyed a sense of the film to me and the atmosphere. I really liked your first character presentation, which I thought was really good. The second one I thought was a little bit cliched and needed a bit more backstory. She's a beautiful woman. Lots of other things that were good, but the central problem for me with your presentation is you haven't told me what your film was about. I actually can't picture. Stepping outside my role now, you have told me in class, but you haven't told me in your presentation. You've told me it's a story about someone dropping a ring. I can't picture your thing. You've alluded to all sorts of things, but I can't picture what your film's going to look like. And only at the end, when Fudzi was talking about the music, he talked about these time-lapse things. I don't know what that means because you haven't explained it to me. Right at the end, Aaron, you started talking about how you wanted to tell the story and whatever. Again, that means I haven't got a real structure. I needed you to take me through. Where's the storyboard elements? How have you taught me through what's going to happen in your film? I've got absolutely no idea at the end of the presentation. So it's like the most important element isn't there. A couple of questions that I do want to go back to, but that is something you're going to have to address and come back to me on. In terms of locations, you only appear to have one location considered. Is all of the filming going to happen in one location?
Oh, and Aaron's house, we're filming like that bit where, well, we haven't really told the storyline, but he goes to the woman's house, and that will be at Aaron's.
And what about the locations of I'm asking you because I do know, but I wouldn't know this, of some of the time-lapse things. Aren't they going to be in different...
One of the time lapses you'll see is on the high street. It's going to be of me, like how I live, and it'll go from that to there.
Okay. So I'm just not clear. I can't picture anything, and I'm not sure it is a time lapse that you mean. I think that you have something else planned, so that's not really clear for me. So you need to think about that a lot more. You need to think about permissions more. What else have I got? Again, your rationale. I was pleased that you had a rationale in there, but because you haven't told me enough about film, it was difficult to have a rationale, really. Okay, those are my key points. Colleagues, did you have any questions to ask or anything you wanted to raise? Did you agree with my points?
I have two questions. One about the characters and cast, because you say that so the homeless man is 27 and the lady is 26. How are you going to make you two look more like you're not just teenagers and actually people who've had a job and who's homeless instead of just a homeless teenager kind of thing? Because I can't really picture that it would look like the age that we're trying to convey the character.
We can convey it through a lot of things such as body language and obviously the clothes that they're wearing and
makeup.
Yeah.
And in terms of Nell, the female character, you don't see the female character's face. If you've seen Tom and Jerry, you know that the human in it, you never see their face. That's kind of what we're going to try and put in our short film. So in terms of the female, you don't really need to worry about that. In terms of me...
You're going to do it all the way towards the end, even when he goes to her house. You're not going to see her face.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, in the second question, I'm still a bit confused about the story, where the time lapse comes in. Because at the start, when you were describing the story, I thought it was supposed to be slightly comedic, that he's trying to look for someone in this room, and then the music sort of showed that it was supposed to be more not comedic at all. So I'm a bit confused about the storyline. And can you explain more where the time lapse element comes into it?
So the time lapse is, we kind of consider it to be an opening sort of thing. So we have the things like the tide will come in, and then there's Aaron doing his day-to-day life, as in begging outside Tesco, and moving locations to a bench or something. So we're gonna skip all that, and then it's just normal stuff happening, people walking by, giving him money, It's just day-to-day life.
And it'll show how people are constantly moving past me, but I stay in the same position, in the same location. I don't move.
Yeah, the townhouse is pretty much like an introduction to his character. And then that ends, and then we have like everything else coming. The woman with the ring.
Yeah. So are you slightly trying to do this kind of style of Rondo run and they sort of look into the character's backstory?
In a way, but then not really, because we don't really want you to know too much about the characters. We want you to interpret them how you would interpret them. We don't want to give you a backstory, we just want what you see, and then we want you to think, oh, how is he homeless? Why is he homeless? Why would she give him the ring? Like we're asking you questions through our film.
I think that's one of the key things of our film as well. It's not the fact that it's a short film or we don't have enough time to convey the backstories. It's that we want the audience to interpret their own way of looking at it, and that creates the variation of the thoughts of what you get.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I cannot give you funding at the moment because you haven't actually conveyed your film to me. So you need to come back to me next week with a storyboard, just a basic storyboard. I need to see this film, I need to know what happens at each stage in this film before I can give any funding. Other aspects of your presentation were very pleasing, but the heart of this is the film you're going to make and I don't know what it is. So I'd like you to come back to me next week with that. Now we have a thank you very much.